My parents are like, where are you? Stay safe. I'm like...
Welcome. You're listening to Nuditea, a podcast where we get naked with our feelings while drinking tea. I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Wendy, and on this podcast we talk about food, travel, life, adult things, our feelings. We don't have any special guests today. It's just the two of us. And we're talking about the most rebellious thing that we did as teenagers.
Prepare to be not shocked. We're very tame.
No, we're good kids.
No
we're
scandals.
Good kids.
No scandals, really.
Yeah, although mine was probably the biggest scandal of my memory.
And mine was probably pretty bad in my parents' eyes, but they have no idea that this remotely happened.
Oh, well,
so if my mother is still listening to this, she will find out on this podcast.
Yeah, but let's do our teas first. Mm-hmm. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a David's Tea Jasmine Peony. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to drink straight flowers, and it tastes exactly how you would expect it to. It's very good. You're right. David's Tea that's a good tea, and I've had other teas that you're like, disappointing. I now understand why those are disappointing. This is very good.
They're jasmine teas. I was just telling Kim, David's Tea, they're jasmine teas, which I think also is what Buddha's blend is kind of composed of. Yeah. So I guess it falls under the jasmine umbrella. Their black teas are really good. I would just stick to those. None of that weird fruit and nut type of combination.
And jasmine's just a very nice smell to always just have. So.
It's very fragrant and lovely. I am drinking what I described to Kim as a bootleg chai because I just have a red rose orange pico tea bag in here, and I was like, you know what? I drink that every single day. I just need to spice up my life a little. So I added some cardamom seeds that we have, and I also dumped in a bunch of powdered cinnamon. So we'll see how this goes.
Has it gotten stronger yet?
I think so, a little bit. I taste and smell the cardamom a bit more. I literally have a cinnamon stick. I have cinnamon sticks, but I didn't want to deal with that. So like powdered cinnamon it is.
So the most rebellious thing I did was after my prom, and if you listen to the last episode, dances were a big no-no until prom happened and we could go to that. Basically, I was going to a party afterwards that was definitely co-ed, even though my mom let me have co-ed sleepovers until I was in grade 6. At some point, it was definitely no. She did not want this to happen. So I went to a party afterwards at someone's house that they have no idea whose house that was. I don't even remember whose house that was.
Ooh.
And there was definitely just boys and girls there, and there was drinking, and there was pot. And I also slept over there. So, Wendy's shocked. Okay, but honestly, not that crazy of a thing. I think lots of people kind of sneak out and go to parties if they're not supposed to or whatever. And I was a pretty good kid, and nothing like remotely bad really happened. So, but I learned. So my sister kind of fell into the same thing where she was just very honest with her parents. So when my sister Lorraine graduated, I know that she asked, "Hey, can I go to this after prom kind of party or go with her like close theater friends to this hotel and just hang out there?" And I don't know if she wanted to sleep over, if she just wanted to go and then like leave earlier, but my parents were just like, no, like you're not doing this.
Co-ed?
Like it was co-ed, but like her theater friends, like she'd known for a while, like nothing was going to happen really. That was like maybe drinking, maybe pot, but I'm not sure exactly. I'm like 4 years younger than her. So, but all I knew was, oh, okay. So I told my parents I was going to a hangout or a get together after prom. I told them that it was at my friend Emily's place and I was going to sleep over there. But that's kind of how I learned in order to get away with like actually having this happen, I had to lie. Yeah.
Why you always lying?
You always start out like, oh, can I do this thing with some friends afterwards? And then they ask more details, and that's where the lies is. You want to like lie by omission to begin with, and then my mom and dad trusted me. Probably because I was a very trustworthy like kid, and I followed their rules and stuff. But yeah, maybe they knew. I doubt they knew, because they probably would have put a hard kibosh on that.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and guess that you didn't actually do anything bad. Like maybe you drank.
Yeah.
But you're not a pot user. You never have been. it's not like you were gonna get all sexual with like the people. Like, I think mostly it's things that your parents would heavily disapprove of, aside from the drinking, that were happening in your environment, but that you were not going to partake in.
Maybe, but they don't know how, if I was, you know, susceptible to that peer pressure.
Maybe.
You know?
But also, like, I feel like parents always think we're super young and we're easily manipulated, but I think it gets to a certain point when our personality or our values have stabilized enough that we're kind of just like, nah, you guys, like, do whatever you want. I'm out, you know? Like, I feel like parents should have a little more trust in their teenagers.
Yeah, and honestly,
once you get a sense of, like, what your child is actually like.
If my mother and dad, if I knew they were going to say yes, if I had told them the whole truth, I would have told them the whole truth. I think that if I were to become a parent, which, not the plan, but there's the idea of, like, I would want my child to tell me as much as possible about that party. And I'd be like, okay, do try to avoid this. I'll do this. But I would hope to know exactly the address my child is at. For safety reasons.
Because Kim was not at Emily's.
I can't remember whose house it was. But it was definitely, like, still close friend. Because I remember waking up, and not everyone stayed over. But they were close enough friends that we stayed over, and then we, like, ate breakfast in the morning and hung out, like, by their pool. So I can't pinpoint exactly whose house it was, but
it's been a while. It's
been a bit.
Yeah.
So see, I would have lied because I wanted to go. Like, I hardly ever went to parties, mainly because I didn't live, like, in Nepenthe. I live outside of it. I need to be able to drive to places. I got my license late, and they're just like, got to go to my dance, and then I got to go to a party afterwards because it's like the quintessential, like, high school thing you do. So
I think it's kind of the outcome of parents having a certain level of restrictions, because at a certain point we're able to make our own decisions. We have our own means of transportation, we sometimes have our own money to be able to, like, afford alcohol or, like, other things that we might want to do. So I think parents, they have, like, a false sense of still having complete control. So when you ask them, like, oh, can I go here? They feel like they have the ultimate decision. But it's like, for us, we already have so much negative reinforcement from them previously when we've wanted to do things or ask them if you could, like, I don't know, do whatever with your friends, and they've repeatedly said no to a certain type of activity. Then you kind of, like, learn, you're like, hold up, I am, like, a year and a half or, like, 2 months away from being a grown-ass adult. I can make my own decisions now, and I don't really have to report to you truthfully because I'm going to get a no, and then, like, I won't be able to go anywhere.
Yeah, you learn for sure. And I mean, yes, teenagers are impulsive.
Yeah.
I don't always think, oh, I made the right decisions when I was younger. I think I made the right decision most of the time. But you almost have to have mistakes, but it'd be nice if, like, you could make mistakes but also feel, like, safe in making those mistakes, I guess.
Like, you're not going to face judgment. It's like the whole, like, criminalizing drugs situations. Like, if you criminalize drugs, people are going to use them still, and then more people are going to die from overdose because they're too scared to tell anyone or
they're
to
afraid
call.
of being arrested. And
It's like this. It's the same thing. It's like constant negative reinforcement does not ever really lead to good results, especially in terms of communication between parents and children. Wow, I didn't expect to extrapolate that far, but here we are.
You did.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting, like, the last week's episode with childhood memories, or previous episode, I don't know when we're releasing that, Eric and I just kind of sat back and learned.
Yeah.
Like, Wendy, my older sister, definitely paved the way for us to maybe do more rebellious things. My sister probably wasn't even, in the eyes of society, that rebellious. But in my parents' eyes,
any of us were.
In my parents' eyes, she was, because that was just something that they didn't want their children doing or whatever. So she did stuff. Then my three older sisters all did stuff, and, like, Lynn didn't really try to push the boundaries, I don't think, too much. But you learn kind of, like, what gets passed and all that stuff. So it feels like I feel a little bad for having to have lied to them. Yeah.
I feel bad also, but I think that by lying, I was able to get some really amazing memories and really good experiences out of my lies. And I regret lying to my parents. Yes, I do not regret
Doing the things.
doing those things though.
Yeah.
Because like I was a responsible child at that point. They should have known that by then. I know they were scared of maybe like external factors, but like I would never put myself in an unsafe situation that was sketchy. So like the experiences that I had were all like safe and like not a big deal. They were not that rebellious.
Parents worry. I
Yeah.
get that. And you want to protect them as much as possible. And yeah, you want them to stay safe, not get caught in a situation. Because, yeah, you don't know what life's going to throw you. But you could, like, be in as safe a situation as possible. And stuff might still happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a level of, like, we've prepared you with all the information we can give you. Make sure that we're communicating. Like, if I was, like, I didn't have a phone at that time. I got a phone real late. But, you know, I could have been, like, texting them. They would know where I was. And, like, I could call them. But, like, if something really, truly bad had happened, I would have had to use someone else's phone, for one. Like, what would I have done?
Yeah.
I didn't have, like, a safety net or any, like, kind of backup. But I also trusted my friends, the people I was mainly hanging out with. And granted, I knew pretty much everyone, like, in the grade. So you know them enough.
I think as a parent, when you sign up to be a parent, you're already signing yourself up for
Lifetime of
years
worry.
and years of like risk evaluation for your children. And eventually you have to accept the fact that your children are also capable of their own risk evaluation. So it's kind of like, I would much rather it have been like a back and forth discussion about how we're evaluating the risk in the situation that I want to put myself in, rather than them like vetoing all of my decisions or my activities, because that just like didn't make me feel good. It's like at that point you feel like a semi-adult, like you want to have a bit of control over your own life.
Because I remember in high school, I had wanted to go hang out with my friends because we were going to do something Christmas baking, very wholesome stuff. But it just turned out that my parents had planned to take the family to go see the movie the Nativity when it was out, like
Perfect.
2010 or something. Honestly, not even that good of a movie. But I really begged them. I'm like, can we go see this another night? Or do I really have to go see this? And they're like, no, you're going to go see this with us. And I was like,
You have 6 other children, like 5 other children to go.
I was really frustrated because I'm like, you literally see me all the time. I barely go in to hang out with my friends. Can you not like give me this a little bit? And so there's just like even times where it's a very wholesome thing. And granted, it's just because it like conflicted with their plans of us going to go see the Nativity. I'm like, I know the story of Jesus and the birth of Jesus.
This is not news.
Do I need to go see the birth of Jesus done cinematically? I don't think so. So I was like, and I didn't enjoy my time then.
Yeah.
Like I was just super mad
like
at
when
them.
your parents force you to attend these events when you'd much rather be somewhere else, it's like no one is going to have a good time. No one. Because they're going to have to look at your sour ass face the whole time. You're going to be pouting and like just, be grumpy. Like, why do that?
So there's like, that was the time I was very, very honest with them. It did not work out whatsoever. And so obviously this time where it's like alcohol, drugs, boys, sleeping over with boys when I'm, what are you, 16, 17? What are you at high school?
Yeah,
12,
17,
17?
18, I don't know.
It's going to be a hard pass on their part. And I knew
Lies.
that. So
Just gonna tell lies.
Yeah, so that's my most rebellious.
Yeah. I do have a question for you because your family had a mix of boys and girls as kids. Did you ever feel like your parents had a different set of restrictions for you or your female siblings versus your male siblings?
No.
No?
No, that was not the case. If Eric had... I don't know what Eric's after party after prom was and how much he told them about. But I can't imagine. I think he also knew to like...
Hush, hush.
Hush, hush, lie a little bit. He's also the kid who like tried to get away with the party in our parents' house and got grounded, which I don't think they've ever grounded any of us. So that was a really weird, like, you guys ground? Not just gonna do a spanking? I guess he's like 17. Why would you spank him? So
Can you even spank a 17-year-old? I don't know.
I don't know. So I don't, from what I recall, like the rules were the rules. Like, don't drink, don't do this. They weren't very, like, Eric can go hang out with his friends. Eric might have had more opportunity to go hang out with his friends because his friends were just like making plans and he was like, I want to go do this thing. I want to go play this sport. Like, I think me in particular, like I would want to go hang out with my friends, but you know, a little bit of a homebody. The Wadhams kind of are to a certain extent, and that's also, we grew up with basically 5 friends in a way. Like, there's obviously sibling turmoil every once in a while, but you're kind of content with just hanging out with your siblings if you get along really well. So I wasn't always like, I need to get out of this house, I need to go see friends. While you being a single child, you're like, I need to go see people that aren't my parents.
You had your 5 siblings as friends. I had my 2 parents who were my friends. Yeah, so the reason I asked that is because I think in Asian families, I find there's a huge disparity between the rules set for male children versus for female children. And I think that's coming from the perspective of potential sexual assault. And in our parents' mind, like, obviously sexual assault just proportionately happens to females more than males. So I think for them, it was a lot about, like, protecting your daughters from potential, like, sexual situations that they don't know anything about and don't know how to counter, don't know how to deal with, might lead to, like, a lot of trauma. So I think for them, they just wanted to keep me as far away from potential situations of that kind. Whereas for a lot of my guy friends who are like Asian or Chinese specifically, they did not have any of those same restrictions. Like, they could go out to parties, they could sleep over, they were able to go out late at night. It was like more of a matter of like, are you getting all your homework done? Are you doing well in school? Are your friends like hoodlums, or are they just like normal other kids doing normal other teenage boy things, you know? So I always felt very angry and frustrated that I had such a different set of restrictions compared to what I would have if I was a guy. You know, and I get that from my parents' perspective. I think that maybe they erred on the side of being overly protective because, like, again,
that's better than something like super traumatic happening.
It is better, but I think the probability of those things happening, especially within such a close circle of friends, like, it's not like I had a bunch of random ass friends that I don't know anything about. In elementary school, I had maybe like 2 to 3 really close friends, and my parents knew the 3 friends really well. They knew most of their parents really well, so it was very, like, frustrating for me to still have to deal with their perspective on, like, how dangerous a certain situation was, even though I knew all of these people and their parents really well, and I felt very comfortable being in those situations. You know?
I guess we always have to remember, like, the statistics kind of tend towards when you're sexually assaulted, raped, molested, it tends to be people you know, and whether that's like super close people or just acquaintances. I'm not 100% sure. So I understand, even though it's like a close-knit pair of like set of people, the statistics would point towards like that happening. But is that also because you're around those people more versus a stranger doing it? So yeah, I think it's just a level of like how much trust, how much information do you want to like give your child and like let them have experiences, because not letting them have experiences doesn't help them grow as a human being
and leads to lies.
And I was thinking, I'm trying to think back to your question about like, was it even? And I'm pretty sure there was just a very like the sense of what was fair was very much equal, like kind of taught a little bit in our house. We were very much, oh, you got this slice of pie, I need, you know, you already had a slice of pie, and so I think my parents just like approached it like, we would be like, this isn't fair, I didn't get to do this, and they'd be like, oh, I guess that's a thing, or like, we didn't get to. Like, so,
I guess now I'm regretting letting your sibling do this thing.
I don't think they were necessarily thinking like, oh, Eric, he's a boy, he can go to these parties. If anything, they were like, Eric's a boy, he might do these things. Not that they actually ever thought that Eric would do that, because
and that's also a difference between you having many siblings and me being an only child, because I didn't get any kind of buffer between me and another sibling. Like, there was no one to divert their attentions. Not that I feel like even if I did have a sibling, they probably would have been almost equally strict with me and my sibling. I don't think maybe if my sibling was a boy, then it would have been very different. But if, say, I had another like older sister or younger sister, I think my parents would have been equally like obsessed with restricting our activities to try and
Right.
keep us safe.
Because can you think of a family, like a Chinese family that had a boy and a girl, and they did have those differences? Because the fact that, like, your guy friends got to go do this stuff could be because they're male, but it also could be, like, their parents and what they warranted, like, they could do.
I don't know. I don't think most of the families that I know of
Just one child?
are mostly one child. I guess it depends a lot on the type of parents you
Yeah.
have, but I'm just saying that if I had a brother, I'm going to bet my life that he would have been able to go out for more like late night activities / sleepovers than I would be.
I could see that. And the age difference thing, the ages is different because, like, Wendy and Erin, my, like, two oldest sisters, Eric and I definitely got the perks of being so, like, far apart in distance or age-wise. And my parents relaxed a bit. They
Yeah.
definitely did. They learned, they're like, okay, maybe we don't have to be as strict and all that stuff. So Eric and I benefited from definitely being
For
the
sure.
younger kids.
Yeah.
So I think it was less, are you boy or girl, and more like, how old and how's our parenting changed, basically.
Yeah. And I find that now that I'm able to be super open and honest with my parents about my activities, because like they no longer have any sense of control over what I'm doing on a daily basis, that I don't have a reason to lie to them anymore, because like what are they going to do? Ground me? Pfft, get out.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like I feel like our relationship is a lot healthier now that I'm just able to like say, "Oh, I'm going to like this wedding or this party and we're going to do these things tonight," because one, they're now at the point where they have to trust me to not make stupid decisions. And two, even if they don't trust me to not make stupid decisions, I'm going to do it anyway.
You're in the States. What you gonna do yet?
You know? Yeah, so I think our relationship has also gotten a lot healthier because I'm no longer lying to them. I just didn't enjoy lying to my parents. But I wanted to do things. So,
Yeah, and I'm at the point where I don't lie to my parents. I don't actively, like, tell them everything. I'm like, I have been bottling this up, this and this and this. If they ask me the question, I answer them,
yeah.
like, completely truthfully.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm always just sending like selfies of me in all the situations to my parents. Are like, "Where are you? Stay safe." I'm like,
Right.
out drinking with my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay.
We talked
I
a
guess-
lot longer on my thing than I
think
thought we
there's
were
just-
going to.
I think this is almost like a follow-up to like childhood household restrictions.
It is a bit, yeah.
A little bit, but I think we're focusing on like one particular case, which I think is fun.
I want to know about this
So-
fight.
Oh, okay. It's the same time frame as yours, where I was in the last year of high school, and
Just want that freedom.
we're just busting out of this house restriction.
Yeah.
And in the U.S., I don't know how common it is in Canada for after high school graduation, you and a close group of friends all go on like a grad trip. Is that a thing here?
I think it is. I didn't.
Okay.
But I think it's, like, people do it.
Yeah, I think in the U.S. it was almost like the culture.
It's a rite of passage.
All the kids, they would all go out and have fun after graduation with their friends, and some of them would like take flights out to like different states, different countries. Like it's a big thing to do.
I think it's like in Canada it's more common for like after university, because I feel like you have closer friendships, you have probably more money, a little more idea of
Yeah.
what kind of to do. But I was actually reading a book that was loaned to me, and it was a autobiography by a guy, and after high school he went to like Spain.
Yeah.
I'm all like, you're 17. Like, I would not feel comfortable with doing that
But
without
also
like parents and
like
stuff.
because it was such like a part of the high school graduation culture, I think it was also some parents just funded their kids and their
True.
trips.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
it's like, it's a rite of passage, you know, you're gonna go out and have fun with your friends, and it's right before university, so we wanna, it's almost like just letting go of the reins a little bit pre-university, maybe for like the parents to get like a sense of how that feels, and for the kids to like really go ham and go wild for a little bit. So anyway, I was graduating from high school, and my friends and I, we wanted to go on a super cute and sweet little cottage trip. One of my friends, his parents had a cottage out in like a really beautiful woodsy area. And it was like a beautiful cottage. It was surrounded by like all these forests and wildlife and trails and a little river that we could like go swimming in. It was super, super cute. And it was not that far away from where we all were living at the time. So I just really wanted to go on this adorable cottage trip with my friends before we all left for university. And falling in the theme of like no co-ed parties, no sleepovers, my parents obviously were like...
Hard pass on you, yeah.
Yeah, hard pass. And usually for like other normal parties and sleepovers, if they say no, then I just don't go, because I usually stuck with their rules, because I didn't really want to throw hands and like get into a full-on fight with my parents ever.
Yeah.
But this time I was like, are you joking me? I'm literally about to just pack my shit and move out and go to university in another country, and you're not letting me go on a freaking cottage trip for a weekend? Like, what? How? And like, I was gonna be able to text them. I had a cell phone in my last year of high school, so I was gonna be able to text them. I was gonna be able to call them. They were gonna know where we were, like the address. It wasn't like a lying situation, because I was like, this is more like, if something did happen to us, I would want my parents to know where we were. Yeah. And to like be able to...
Yeah, especially you're in the woods. Like...
Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't like a situation where I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go to my best friend Lauren's house for 3 days and, you know, see you guys after the week. No, it was full on, like, I told them everything that was gonna happen. We had these little meetings with my friend whose parents' cottage we wanted to go to. Meetings with his family and his parents to just talk about like logistics and like who was gonna drive, what we needed to bring, what we needed to be careful about. Yeah, so it was gonna be a fairly well organized, fun time for us. But my parents were so bloody against it that I was just really fed up at that point by all of like the social repression and all the restrictions that I had been dealing with since elementary school.
Yeah, like this final straw.
Yeah, that I was like, I'm not backing down on this. I'm not going to be able to have another chance ever again of being with this group of people on a cottage trip.
That's basically free.
Yeah, it was free. I don't...
Except for like food or something, but yeah.
Oh, I think the guy whose parents were letting us use the cottage, I think they just like bought us a whole bunch of like food from Costco and was like, off you go, little ones. Like, because that was just such a thing.
Yeah.
Like, cottage trip for a weekend versus the cost of going to Spain.
Yeah.
I think they really like lucked out, really. Just in my opinion. So this time, I think it was almost a full week where my parents and I would get into like daily heated arguments or debates about whether or not I should go. And at one point it got so bad that my mom was like crying and she was just like, why don't we just like for your graduation, we can just like plan a trip to anywhere you want. Like we could go to Paris, like mom will go with you. I'm just like, mom, that's not the fucking point.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to go to Paris with you at another time. It's not that I just want to go somewhere. It's that I want to go celebrate my graduation with this group of friends at the cottage.
Yeah.
It was so frustrating that they were trying to like bribe me.
Here's a
out
consolation.
Of it. Yeah, it was
trip.
like, here's the consolation prize for like not being able to go and have fun with it. Like it just wasn't the same thing, and they didn't get that. And I think at one point I remember we were on our way to like go hiking or something, and we were like having an argument about this, and my parents were like, we just are really not comfortable with like not knowing what you guys are up to all the time, and like we don't know what's gonna happen. I'm like, I'm moving out in 4 months and you're not going to have any idea what I'm doing daily. And then afterwards, my dad came to me and was like, what you said was really hurtful. I mean, it was true, but it was still really hard to hear. I'm like, you need to accept this. This is such a power trip moment.
Yeah.
Like, this is not...
You're still under our house.
Yeah.
Therefore...
It was just such a frustrating time for me because it's like, I'm a responsible adult. I'm about to go off in the world and be a responsible adult alone. You need to, like, give me the opportunity to make mistakes, have new experiences, be able to, like, control myself in certain situations. Mm-hmm. Like, these are valuable things that I should learn before I actually move out and, like, have to deal with this shit alone, you know? So that was probably, like, the wildest time I had with my parents in my entire life. And eventually it just came down to, like, I was literally just gonna, like, leave. I was just gonna leave and have my friends come pick me up and, like, not give a fuck. Mm-hmm. But eventually, like, my mom was still not okay with it. But my dad was like, okay, well, since it's, like, this important to you, I guess we'll have to let you go. Mm-hmm. And I'm like,
you didn't really have a choice in the end of it.
Great.
Yeah.
You know, it was such, like, a bad time between me and my parents where we just had such conflicting ideas of what I should be able to do or what I should be able to make decisions on. And I just hated the idea that, like, all of my friends would be out on grad trips and then I would have to stay home because my parents said no. Mm-hmm. Like, that fucking sucks. That really sucks. We're talking about, like, lifelong FOMO. Because, like, it's not like I'm ever gonna be able to get that experience again.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Yeah. So, that was my most rebellious moment in my teenage years and my entire life, really, where I was...
Literally, your rebellious moment is getting in an argument. It would have been super rebellious if they had said no at the very finally. You're like, bye. So you were ready to be super rebellious, but eventually they... Yeah.
I think it was just even
you had to fight for it so hard.
For a long time, too. Like, I'm a caver. I like to appease my parents. I like to make them happy. Yeah. Which is why I hate lying to them. I hate, like, doing things that they're unhappy with. But this time I was like, no, I'm going to stand my ground because this is ridiculous. And guess what? On this cottage trip, it was super chill. We took pictures of some bears. We saw lots of deer. We, like, splashed around in the river and floated in our little tubes. At night, we had, like, little drinking parties. No one died. No one got super insanely drunk. Mm-hmm. It was just, like, a happy, wild time. We had a bonfire. It was just a normal-ass cottage trip.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what my parents were expecting to happen. I don't know if they thought we were going to burn the thing down.
The worst possible scenarios go through parents' heads.
Yeah.
That has to be why they're so reluctant to let, you know, their children go do things. Because it's funny, they're like, we want to know what you're doing. But you're like, are you texting them during high school? When you're at school being like, I'm going to this place for lunch. It's off campus, so teachers are like, a parental figure won't be around. It's interesting.
It's also, that's a good point. It's not like they actually know what I do on a daily basis.
But after hours, after dinner time, we get wild.
Except for I didn't because I was at home.
Yeah.
I was at home after dinner because I wasn't really allowed to go anywhere. Oh, that also reminds me, this isn't like a rebellious moment. This is just a tag-along story to the restrictions thing, where when the last Harry Potter movie came out, I think that was the year, like my last year of high school, and a couple of my friends last minute were like, oh, they're showing it at the drive-in theater. We should all go watch.
Where people make out?
So scandalous. I don't know if my parents know that drive-in theaters are where people make out. But that night, I think my mom was in China that year, and it was just me and my dad alone. And I was building up the courage to ask him if I could go see the Harry Potter movie with my friends for like an entire day. Mm-hmm. And like at the last possible minute, like a few hours before, I was like, hey Dad, so Harry Potter is really important to me. And the last ever movie is showing tonight, and I was wondering if I could go see it with my friend. Like, it was such...
So dramatic.
It it was dramatic for me because like if
obviously.
he had said no, I would have been devastated.
Yeah.
Because like my friends were going. I think that was maybe like the first or second time I'd ever been to drive-in theater. So it was like the whole thing was like sparkly and wonderful for me in my head. And I was just like, I just really want to go.
Yeah.
And my dad like gave it a good thought and he was like, yeah, okay. That was the other thing. They always stay up until I come home.
Oh.
So you always have that like extra guilt factor.
Right.
If I have kids, I'm going to be like, all right, my ringtone's on real high. I'm going to pass out. If you need me, just give me a call. I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck what you're doing. Just like, if you need me, I'll be here. Just call.
And maybe your husband is the night owl. Maybe he'll stay up.
No, he's even like more, he's very like, he wants to be more of a hands-off type of parent because he strongly feels that like being too tight on the reins almost forces kids to go out of their way to be more rebellious or to lie, which is not the kind of relationship that either of us want with our kids.
Well, it's 100% a balancing act, right?
Yeah.
Because you've also seen like when parents aren't at all hands-on and the kids just do whatever they want and they feel like they have no restrictions or they're almost wanting the parent to like more like parent them a little harder.
I'm fighting for your attention.
Yeah, so they'll do things and then that doesn't lead well. So it is a balancing thing where you want to, you know, put boundaries up, have rules, make sure they follow them. Maybe it's a little bit of a teenager thing where you break a rule every once in a while that really like fuels you as a human.
I think that's a very expected thing to happen. Yeah. And I think as a parent, you just have to expect that your kids are going to go against you. I think our philosophy is we want to lay out our rules for them and then have them judge like whether or not these are reasonable rules and have them make their own judgments instead of us
have them make
always
their case.
being
Make them little lawyers.
Yeah, like throw up a PPT. Like I want to know. I want to know how you're feeling. And then go to law school because it's good prep.
Yeah, I love that. Do you think parents are a little more relaxed because we have cell phones, because there's an easier way to find us? Because back in the 80s, early 90s, people were having to be like, whose house are you going to be at? Okay, we'll call there, but if they're not there, what do you have to get in your car and you have to just like drive around hoping you see your child or hear your child, or you go to anywhere there's a party like booming, you're like, oh, what's that bass?
Or like call all of their other friends' houses because no one has cell phones.
Do you think there's still obviously a smattering of like really overprotective parents and restrictive parents, and then there's like the lenient ones and there's the ones in between? I don't really think you'll ever get away from that because I think kids learn what their parents did. So if it was really relaxed, you're like, I really, looking back, I was not healthy, I did some terrible things, and they might do the extreme opposite where they're very restrictive. True. So I think you're always going to have the restrictive and then the like really lenient ones and then the ones in the middle. But has it kind of changed a bit because we are able to find out where our kids are more, or have kids just, they find easier, like smarter ways to lie to their parents? I think
it's almost like a co-evolution of kids and parents, because like parents learn to be smarter about like tracking their kids down and figuring out what they're doing, because like these dumb kids are always posting on like their Instagram and their TikTok, whatever, and then the kids are always like figuring out new ways to trick their parents into thinking that, you know, they're not doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. Yeah. So I think it's just going to be like a constant little cat and dog fight where kids are always going to try and like do shady things. True. But parents, you just have to deal with that consequence. It was your fault. You decide to have this child, okay? You have to accept it. Yeah. They are their own human being. That's really all I had to say.
Good talk.
Very good talk. I think this is going to end up being like a household restrictions part 2.
A little bit, yeah. But I did like that we like focused on one thing and then that split off into other questions. Yes. I'll wrap it up.
Yes, I just wanted to make a final pitch. I think we should all decriminalize drugs, guys. I think that's the moral of this story.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Nudity. You can listen to this one as well as our past ones anywhere you listen to your podcast, probably, and YouTube. And you can also follow us on Instagram. And all of that is at Nudity Podcast.